Hi, my name is Dr. Eliana Ramirez. I am so grateful that you have volunteered to provide feedback as a beta tester of my course, Healing Workplace Trauma, a Guide to Recovery Options. In my own recovery from workplace trauma, in the very early days, I was absolutely gutted, and it was hard to get off the floor some days. But I decided that I was going to push through and essentially take careful notes of what helped and what hindered my own recovery, and then eventually share that information with others. I knew that as a researcher and as a social worker who has experience in research around trauma and post-traumatic growth, that I could offer something to others who were starting to heal. Because I found on LinkedIn and places like Glassdoor and YouTube increasing numbers of people talking about workplace abuse, but it was usually around what you can do to negotiate a severance package or how to, leverage your employee rights within the workplace or within court. Very little, if any, conversation about what happens to our physical and mental health and how we can recover on a body and mind level from the workplace abuse. And of course, the two issues are related. If our minds are injured by workplace trauma, we sometimes can have a harder time getting the next job. Many of us might choose not to go back into the workforce because we do not want to take the risk of being abused again. And of course, then we have a secondary injury where there's lost access to finances, and everyone needs to keep the lights on. Everyone needs to keep food on the table. So for me as a social worker, addressing the trauma is absolutely a part of our ability to stay in the workforce. And it's a matter of public health as much as it is a matter of mental health. So it's a little bit about why I created the course and why I truly am so grateful for whatever feedback you end up giving me. I really, really welcome critical feedback. I want to know what it's like to be a student who's accessing this course. I've tried to design the course in a way so that people whose minds have been affected by trauma, we can have shorter attention spans. It can be harder to process information that's written. We might have short-term memory recall. So I've tried to create a course that does a couple of things. One, it provides information in text as well as images and videos. I'm so excited that my esteemed colleague, Dr. Jennifer Fraser, author of The Gaslit Brain and The Bullied Brain, has agreed to participate in this course. She and I are having conversations about the course material and then how it connects to her books. And we're adding videos of those conversations into the course. The idea is that for people who are overwhelmed by the written text, they can also get quite a bit by just listening to those recordings. For people who really like the text way of learning and want more information than would be possible to put into a simple online course as this, then the conversations with Jen are also identifying specific locations in her books where people can go and read more. So the idea is a trauma-informed course, meaning that the pedagogy, the design of the course itself is set up to hopefully have as much choice and self-determination as possible for individual learners, because as we know, workplace trauma impacts people differently. But I'm interested to know what it's like on your side as a user. One thing that I can say that my doctoral program gifted me with is the ability to receive critical feedback. So I really consider critical feedback a gift. I would much rather identify challenges now before putting this out into the community, because I want to make sure that people end up feeling at the end of having purchased the course that it was a value add to their life, and that it was and that the cost was reasonable as well. And that's the second thing that I'd like to know from you. So in addition to what is it like to take this course from the user side, I'd also like to know your thoughts about pricing the course. This is major important question for me, as many people who have experienced workplace trauma, I have decided to open a private practice, and I am now a small business owner. And golly, if you've not done small business, which I wasn't even trained in this, I was trained as a social worker and a researcher. So I'm learning as fast as possible as a small business owner. But I find that I tend to give away all of my work because I know that for so many of us, we stay in abusive workplaces because of financial reality, that we have to maintain our salary, we have to maintain our health insurance. So I want to find the right balance between providing accessible resources to the community who might be financially strapped, but I also need to put food on the table for myself and my kids too. So I'm considering ideas of like having a price that is a sliding scale, and people can determine whether or not they can afford the higher or mid or lower parts of that cost. And then I will, of course, give out lots and lots of freebies as I usually do. And so that would be the second thing that I would really love your feedback on, is what I should price the course at. And then thirdly, especially for beta testers who are outside of the United States or who have familiarity with resources outside of the United States, I had so many people contact me on LinkedIn from other countries that I would love to, share as many resources from around the world as possible. On purpose, this course includes resources that are free and low cost. And so really just want to make sure that people can get as much as possible and feel like they can see where they can get real help if needed. Okay, so with that, I am going to send you now a link to the course, invite you to take the first section, and I can actually, I think, share screens with you here so you can see where it's at. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. So this is the first part of the course. We have 5 sections. So the first section is expert guidance and hope, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages of it. And when you get down to the bottom of the text, you will see that there are a couple of questions. These are voluntary for people who take the course. It would be super helpful if you would mind taking answering these questions just to see what the user side is like. It's fine if you want to answer honestly, or if you want to make up answers. Either way is fine. I'm just wanting to make sure that the quiz itself, it's called a quiz, but that it actually works properly for the user. The second part of this are that there are videos at the end of each section. And so if you could watch the videos as well, that would be really helpful. And then you just keep going through until you get to the end of this section 1. Once you get down to the end of section 1, then if you would please complete the feedback form, and then we're going to schedule 30-minute calls. And so that way we could actually talk about it, what it was like for you. I'm going to be updating the future sections of the course as I receive feedback from beta testers. My hope is that this will make it a better experience for you as a beta tester. It'll make it an easier lift. Maybe some people are going to say things like, gosh, there's too much text, I want to see more images, or there are too many images, I want to see more text. Whatever the response might be, if I keep seeing that theme repeated across beta testers, that's what will cue me to go into subsequent sections and make the same edits before you get to that next section, if that makes sense. So after this first section of expert guidance and hope, then we're going to go into understanding workplace trauma. And then it will be embodied trauma and recovery, healing strategies, and finally, cultural strengths and healing. I really do not want you to be harmed in any way by this course, by the stress of learning about workplace trauma. or having, flashbacks or memories, intrusive thoughts about your own experiences with workplace trauma. If at any point in time you feel distress, and you want to exit it as a beta tester, that's completely fine. Please let me know, and so that I can make sure to get you support if support is needed. I don't anticipate that that should be the case. I've really tried my best to design the course so that the first section here, it gives you a little bit of information about workplace trauma, but really the majority of the information is about resource. It's about things that can help you to regulate your nervous system before you get into that next section, which is actually understanding workplace trauma. So section 2 is where I go more into definition of terms, examples of workplace trauma that different communities experience, and importantly, how to defend against workplace trauma as well in the future. And then the final sections, again, are really focused on healing, the resources that you can choose based on whatever your individual injuries might be, your preferences, personal preferences, and your own goals for your own recovery. So just like trauma is unique to each person, recovery is going to be unique to each person. And recovery is not ever waking up and having complete and total cessation of bad memories. That doesn't happen. Recovery really is more about reprocessing traumatic memories in ways so that the memories no longer disrupt our ability to lead the lives that we want for ourselves. But what that means on an individual basis really is going to differ from person to person. For some people, they're going to say, gosh, I want to no longer have automatic trauma responses when I'm in the workplace. So when I hear the ding of an email come through, I don't want to be sent back into the worst moments at my toxic job in the past. For another person, it might be, I want to regain the cognitive skills that I had prior to the workplace trauma so that I can focus and get my new business up and running and follow through on the goals that I set for myself. So as you can see, just from those two examples, recovery is going to be different for each person. And the whole purpose of this course is to share with people information about the different recovery options that are available. There might be some catharsis that people might experience by reading through the course, by listening to the videos, by trying out some of the self-help exercises. But the course itself is not therapy. It really is just trying to provide psychoeducation that will help workplace trauma survivors choose a path for themselves of recovery. Okay, so again, thank you so much. I'm going to be sending you a link to get into the course to complete that first section, a link to schedule the 30-minute call with me, and the feedback form. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I am so very grateful that you would provide feedback, and I'm looking forward to working with each of you. Thank you.